Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Monica. Today I am looking at a tarot in practice reading that I did to connect with a deck that is new to me, which is the Lily White Tarot. So for me, whenever I acquire a new tarot deck, I usually do at least 3 steps to connect with it and to get to know it, to I guess get a feel for the energy of the tarot deck, but also to cleanse it, do all the sort of stuff that I consider, I wouldn't say it's mandatory. There are very few rules in the world of tarot and divination, but for me personally, I find that those are the things that I feel like I need to do to have a good working relationship with a particular tarot deck. So I purchased this secondhand. Actually, it finally came up for sale on a local page here in Australia, and it's by Celia Mellisville, who also did the Tarot Renard, a lovely Levy deck. And I remember at the time thinking I should really get this Lily White Tarot. There was an option to actually purchase it when I was backing the Tarot Renard on Kickstarter. Long story short, I didn't, and I regretted it ever since. And you'll find that with tarot decks that, sometimes when you first meet a tarot deck, your first impression, I always say that first impressions can be deceiving. I know that people say things like first impressions last and things like that, which I think is really a marketing thing, where that came from. But sometimes, at the time when you first meet a particular tarot deck, your energy might not resonate with it, or you just haven't had a bit of a time to really see it around enough to gauge whether you'll connect with it or not. So this was the case for the Lily White. And as time went by, I realized that I really, really wanted to have this deck and work with it. So I obtained it, and I am incredibly happy that I did. And one of the first things that I do when I obtain a tarot deck is do my new deck interview spread, which I have done before, and I've showcased that on this channel. I'll put a couple of links to the spread when I've done it before somewhere in the description below. But in this case, the deck itself comes with a little card about getting to know your deck. And when you flip this over, it has 4 questions that you can ask to get to know the deck better. So I did the spread, and the cards that I received were just so spot on to me that I felt like I've got to share this at some stage. And this week is the week for that. Okay. So first of all, I'm just gonna make some comments about the questions for these cards, because I don't necessarily agree or recommend asking them in this way. In particular, cards 2 and 3 are actually, to me, 2 separate questions. So card number 2 is, what are your strengths and how can we work together? To me, those are 2 different questions. And I suppose, with the benefit of hindsight, I would turn this into a 6-card spread. But at the time, I was already into it, and I just, I got the deck and did my usual cleansing and purification and things like that. And I really wanted to do the spread. So I took it as it was. And it still worked really well. It's not that it doesn't work. I just think that by having what are essentially 2 different questions in one, newer readers or readers that are still trying to gain experience in their tarot practice, they might get a bit confused perhaps, or the answer might not be as straightforward because you're sort of going backwards and forwards between these questions. But anyway, I did it as it was, and here we go. So let's go through it, and I'll show you why I think that this deck is now one of my top reading decks. I don't know how many top reading decks I have now. It's quite a few, but its energy and my energy align so well. So the first question is, who are you? The energy of the deck in general. And for this, I got this beautiful Three of Pentacles. Okay. What does this tell me about this deck? First of all, if we just go with the Three of Pentacles itself, I think that this is like a master work deck. It's a workhorse deck. I can use this a lot. This deck is very pragmatic. It embodies a lot of knowledge and mastery of the tarot. Okay, so the Three of Pentacles isn't just about work, but it's about mastery over our work. And I really, really appreciated seeing this card in, who are you as a tarot deck. There's a couple of details in this card, specific to this card, that gave it an extra dimension. Allow me to elaborate after I have a quick sip of my tea. So the first one that struck me instantly, I'm not sure if you can see this, is at the very bottom of this card. There is this really nice, looks to me like a hammer, right? And to me, that tells me that this deck is grounded and anchored in earth, in pragmatism and practicality. It's not a wishy-washy deck, although the art style itself is a bit ethereal at times. This card lets me know not to be deceived by that, because it is certainly a very grounded deck. It is a deck that holds a lot of earthly knowledge. Okay, that was the first detail. And the second one is these pentacles here. The detail in these pentacles, as we go from one to the next, is that we start off with the very first one. Doesn't have that much inner detail. You see, you just have these three blades, similar to a fan, I suppose. But then as we move to the next one, that empty void here starts to be colored in and detailed in. And then we finally arrive at a third one, which is fully colored in with detail in that sort of symmetric mandala type style. And to me, this spoke of a really nice progression, the ability to progress by working through questions or examples, or, doing practice with this tarot deck and persevering to obtain, a nice, rich answer at the end. So that was the very first card that I received. Who are you? The energy of the deck in general. Very nice. The second card, as I mentioned before, is really two questions in one. What are your strengths and how can we work together? Okay. And for this, I received the Hierophant. And this is when things really picked up for me a notch, because to me, the Hierophant is a card of inner mystery and knowledge and study of inner mysteries and philosophies. When you talk about the Hierophant, you talk about the mystery of the tarot, but also all the other world divination systems and mysticism and philosophies, Buddhism, yoga practices, the Bible itself. It doesn't really matter which ray from that same sun we talk about, in a sense. It's all about the fact that there is this essence to life. There's a mystery and a sacredness to it, and these there are different ways of trying to obtain that knowledge and to understand it. Okay, so the strength of this deck is that it allows me to peer into and to gain insights into the occult and into divination. That's a very, very strong, a strong strength, if I can say that. I don't know, but you know what I mean? Like, it was such a strong card to receive. And how can we work together? Well, to me, it's like, opening the book of secrets and allowing me to open that book and to read and being that portal for that sacred mystical knowledge. So that was really, really beautiful to actually receive this as both a strength and also how we can work together. The next card was, what are your weaknesses and on what subject I should not work with you? So again, to me, these are two separate questions, but for the purpose of this exercise, I left it as it is. So for this question, I received the Queen of Cups. Okay. Weaknesses. When we think of the Queen of Cups, so these are it's a character card, it's a court card. And the Queen of Cups is all about receptivity, sensitivity, the ability to have empathy and feelings, and to really have that sort of psychic almost ability about her. So as a weakness, it tells me that this is a highly sensitive deck, and that I need to treat it accordingly and not to be perhaps too rough with it. I also felt like this is more of a tarot deck for me personally, as opposed to a reading deck for others. I'm feeling a bit possessive of it as I continue to work with it. So I think that it's telling me to also be wary of spending too much time, you know, in my own inner world. I think that this is a great deck for pragmatic questions, which is really taken me by surprise, as opposed to more of like an inner study, self-development, meditation type deck. That's how I've really taken this card. So I might have to, you know, take some time and think about this a bit more, but the Queen of Cups is what I received for what are your weaknesses and on what subject I should not work with you. And finally, the last question was, what would be the nature of our collaboration? And I obtained the Nine of Cups. And I felt immense joy in receiving this card. On one hand, we have the meaning of the Nine of Cups from a standard tarot deck, right, like the Rider-Waite-Smith, where we talk about the Nine of Cups being the wish card, being the card of opportunity and manifestation that aligns with your own inner emotional world, right? This is where we manifest our deepest dreams and desires and wishes with the Nine of Cups. When we receive this card, it's like, you know, go for it. This is it. On the other hand, I also felt like there are layers within the way that this card is depicted in this tarot deck that gave me further clues or further information that just only cemented my feelings towards this deck. The fact that we have this flame right in the middle of a Cups card, right? So we're talking about a card that is essentially about water and emotions and feelings and your deepest wishes coming true. And right in the center, we have this flame, this candle flame, and how the energy of the flame starts to radiate outwards and touch all the other cups around it. It's like the nature of our collaboration. It's like there's this central flame of connection. And to me, being a fire sign, you know, flame and fire, I always have a candle with me. They often end up going out, but yeah, fire and candle flames, to me, they have to be present in my work, right? It is my essence, the core of my sun sign is in Sagittarius, and seeing this inner flame here, it's like saying, you know, like, shine your inner light. The nature of our collaboration will mirror that. It will reflect that. It will emphasize that. It will protect that and treasure that and nurture that in working with this tarot deck in line with my heart's desires and my wishes, right? it will manifest those for me, or help me to manifest those. So those are the 4 cards that I received in working with this deck. And while I was not sure how it was going to go, given that, as I mentioned, I wasn't 100% certain that the way that the questions were framed was the right way. Although again, what is the right way in tarot, right? We can sit here and debate it endlessly, but the right way for me, that's what I'm referring to when I say the right way. In the end, this spread has let me know from the very, very beginning of obtaining this tarot deck that it is a deck of importance to me, and it now sits firmly on my shelf, and I continue to work with it regularly, and I feel like the energy just keeps on building between my work and this tarot deck. So I've got a really good rapport with it. So I'm going to conclude this here, and I just wanted to highlight or showcase, I guess, another way of connecting with a deck through like a little mini interview spread. And this is one that came with the tarot deck itself. And as always, I thank you so much for watching. I thank you for supporting my channel. Until next time, take care.